Hello everybody, SlimKirby here, and I'm going on a long journey of trying to complete every single Game Boy Advance game in North America. This is the story of the highs, the lows, and all the silly stuff in between for the Game Boy Advance completion experience. This is GB Ace. Game number 28, Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase. Alright, all of you Scooby snackers out there, it's time for the first of, actually a couple of Scooby-Doo games we'll be playing for this challenge. So let's get our mystery solving gear on, board the famous mystery van, and solve some cases with our favorite cartoon canine and his goofy friends. And for the love of God, let's hope this game isn't terrible because, well, let's just say I haven't heard too many great things about Cyber Chase. To be fair though, I am mostly referring to the movie in this case, because, yeah, this game is actually based on a movie of the same name. And sure enough, it does actually follow the events of the movie as well. Kinda. I'll get into what that kinda means later, but the basic plot and characters are here, so it at least has some kind of tie-in to what we're doing here. Anyway, Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase was released in October of 2001 on the Game Boy Advance, although there was another version of the game on the Sony PlayStation as well. Both were published by THQ, and while the PlayStation version was developed by Artco, the GBA version was handled by Software Creations, a company that I didn't immediately recognize, but they were responsible for Plock and Equinox on the Super Nintendo, two games that I was personally familiar with, so hopefully this won't be too bad. So what's exactly going on here? Well, the mystery gang go to visit an old friend of theirs named Eric, but trouble seems to be brewing around campus when a mysterious being called the Phantom Virus is going around and causing mischief, using cyberspace and a video game Eric has created to do so. Other key players of this plot in addition to the Scooby Gang and Eric are Eric's professor, Dr. Kaufman, some nasty baseball player named Bill, and a grumpy old security guard. I wonder who is gonna be the bad guy here. That's usually how some of these Scooby plots work, right? I guess this would be a good time as any to go over my experience with the Scooby-Doo medium. I'll be honest, although I have seen a couple of episodes here and there as a kid, I would not consider myself a fan, really at all. In fact, I think I actually may have seen more episodes of the Pup Called Scooby-Doo spin-off more than the actual show, if that tells you anything. As I've said before, I was just more of a Nickelodeon kid when I was younger, and I believe Scooby-Doo was more so on Cartoon Network, so I just didn't have a lot of watch time with this. Well, hey, at least this will keep things in suspense for me as we try to solve this mystery, right? Well, about that. So yeah, while this does essentially follow the plot of the movie, I would say that it's really only important for the game's setup and conclusion. Everything in the middle just doesn't really matter with respect to the story, as this game feels more of a minigame collection than an actual quest or mystery you're trying to solve. You basically wander around a grand total of, get this, 3 rooms and pick up CDs that you can use to access cyberspace. Each CD is an access point to a world, and once you complete the worlds you have at your disposal, the next CDs will get thrown out into a different room, which you can collect and then repeat the process. And that's really about it. And yeah, these worlds aren't really traditional video game worlds either, they're just mini-games, or perhaps a better word would be mini-stages. There are 6 stages altogether, and once you get through all of them, you make it to the mystery accusation part, and the game pretty much wraps up from there. So yeah, not a lot of substance here, admittedly. Before we get to the stages though, who exactly will we be playing as for this game? Well, to be honest, you kinda play as all 5 of the mystery gang: Scooby, Shaggy, Fred, Velma, and Daphne. But each character is essentially an extra life. If you manage to fail or get knocked out during a level, you lose one of your gang and will have to move on to the next member and try to get through all the stages before losing all 5 members. And you essentially get to pick your character when you're in the hub world, so you can be whoever you want for this. Well, until you lose them anyway. I personally didn't notice any major differences between the characters though. Maybe Scoob's hitbox is a little different because he's, you know, quadrupedal in this game, but I don't know for certain. The first stage we have, though, is the Coliseum, which takes place at, you guessed it, a Roman Coliseum. The basic objective here is that you have to collect enough Scooby snacks that are in the stage, and once you get enough so the counter at the top gets to 0, that will make a box appear, which you then grab to get access to the second part of the level and the boss fight. That's really about it, and this level is already painfully linear too, so all the Scooby snacks will be pretty much in your path anyway. You also have to deal with avoiding the Coliseum guards too, which will hurt you on contact and throw projectiles at you. You can attack these guys, which I failed to do so since I was still trying to get used to the game at this point, or use a special consumable hiding item which resembles a Deadpool mask for some reason, and this will make your character hide for a few seconds and allow you to not take any damage either. I'll admit from the get-go, this game did not feel good to play. It just felt really awkward to control, and although I didn't have any major problems with this level, the level was also just painfully simple and easy anyway. Not only was everything literally in a straight line, but you could also find a variety of health pickups and other consumables too, so even if you did take a lot of damage, you could very easily heal it anyway, so it was no big deal whatsoever, seriously. When I got to the boss fight, my god, this boss was even more awkward. You basically had to use these catapults to attack this villain known as the Creeper, and this Creeper had a very weird movement pattern that was kinda hard to lock down at first. And even when you did, it was still very hard to aim the catapult too, so you kinda had to just wait for him to appear on screen, hit the launcher, and just pray that you would hit him. I managed to beat him without dying still, but it did not feel good in the slightest bit. Yeah, not a very good start for this game. Oh boy, the second level was not much better, especially since I noticed that immediately after I started, my game screen started flickering like mad. Yeah, it looks like we have our second game that we might have to play on a different emulator. Thankfully, MGBA comes to the rescue yet again, the same application we used for Need for Speed Underground to stop that terrible audio popping that I had. I should honestly just use this from now on, but the only reason I use RetroArch is in case a game has retro achievements, and they link directly to RetroArch, so it's just more convenient for that reason. I'll never sacrifice good quality and a more pleasant viewing experience for achievements though, so no worries about that. Plus, this game didn't have any achievements at that time anyway, so whatever. But anyway, back to that second level, Ocean Chase. This level was more of a mini-game than an actual stage, and in this game you have to change lanes while also avoiding obstacles in the water and from the sky. Once again, you do have to collect Scooby snacks and deplete that number at the top in order to complete this, and I'll be real, this was really hard to do. The perspective for this was not super ideal, and unlike other games that have lane movement controls, you're doing this from a horizontal perspective and not a vertical one, which just made it hard to react in time if something appears in the furthest lane from your general location. Not to mention, you have to deal with water creatures while you're doing this, which appear on both sides of the screen at random points, so you could be hugging the left wall in an effort to have enough time to react to upcoming Scooby Snack locations, but then start clipping an enemy that appears that you really can't avoid in the first place, and that just felt really annoying to deal with. Not to mention, the Phantom Virus appears after a while and just starts throwing random things down at you, which can be really hard to avoid as well, since his patterns aren't exactly obvious. It's just so easy to take damage in this, and while it did seem like it wasn't too terrible, to the point where you have to take a lot of hits to go down in the first place anyway, it just didn't feel that good to play. To make it worse though, if you didn't collect enough Scooby Snacks by the time you make it to the finish line, guess what? You have to take another lap around and try again from the beginning. However, you don't recover your health when this happens, which means it's likely harder to survive the second round. And remember, if you take a death, you lose one of your mystery gang members in the process. I actually lost Shaggy here as a result, and then proceeded to try again as Daphne. With her, I did get all the Scooby Snacks this time, but then missed the box, which prompted, yep, another lap, which led to another lost member of the gang. Damn, the mystery gang is dropping like flies now. In my defense though, how the hell was I supposed to know that the box was going to be in that one specific lane? I literally just got the required number just before that and had very little time to react. I call absolute BS on that front. Attempt number 3 has got to be the charm here, and sure enough it was, as the Scoobmeister himself does make it through this gauntlet, and actually manages to grab the box as well. See, it's a lot easier to pick up when you know it's there! Seriously, so freaking stupid. There wasn't a boss for this level though, so yay, we're actually 1/3 through the game now, which means we can find our next CDs and play the next 2 levels. Level 3 was the Prehistoric Jungle, and let me just say you will be spending quite a bit of time in this level climbing trees to collect all these Scooby snacks. This level is massive, and you have to collect almost 150 snacks in order to move on. You'll have to scour this level both high and low to find all that you need. I'm not sure if you absolutely need everything to advance, but you do need a lot, and trust me, it was really hard to keep track of where I was and what areas I'd explored already. Also, you're probably wondering about that time limit in the bottom corner. Well, if you fear that time limit reaching 0 will lead to a death, you can remove that fear, because that won't actually happen. I think the time limit is really just for bonus time points more than anything for a high score, as it definitely got to 0 during this level, but nothing really happened as a result. Which, hey, not complaining at all, this level was practically torture to explore fully. Once we finally collect all of our treats and find the box, it's time to move on to the boss of this section, a giant bipedal alligator called the Gator Ghoul. All you have to do for this guy is collect the nuts that fall from the tree and throw them at the reptile to put a stop to him. Nothing really that difficult, and something that should be easily taken care of, no problem. For level 4, we have Snow Chase, and wow, it's literally the same idea as the Ocean Chase level, just with snow now. Well, at least I don't have to say much about this, and we can just move on. Heck, even the box was located in the very same place in the bottom lane, so just stay attentive once you get all the snacks, and you should be fine. Everything else is pretty much the same as the last chase stage we did, although I'd almost say this was easier if I'm being honest, just because there were less enemies coming out of nowhere. And yeah, once again, no boss either. Dang, we're really cruising through this game now, I gotta say. After getting the next 2 CDs, we opened our way to level 5, the Boardwalk. In terms of scale, this was much less intimidating than what the jungle level we did earlier was, kind of more similar to the Coliseum stage actually, although this time we have to get a certain number of Scooby snacks in each individual area. Once we do, we get a ticket and then advance to the next part until we ultimately have one for each of the main areas. Although the last area was kind of weird, as you needed a lot less than the others for some reason, and it felt more like a transition hallway more than anything. Anyway, this level honestly wouldn't have been too bad if it wasn't for 2 key annoying aspects. For one, the clown enemies in this level sucked. Every time you get close to one of them, they do a cartwheel attack almost immediately, and for some reason they can't be stunned as easily in this animation, so sometimes you would just take immediate damage from them before you even knew it was coming to you. Also, the third area of this place had a very awkward jump you had to make that wasn't inherently obvious at first, and while I was trying to look for a way to progress, I took too much damage as the Scoopster, mostly from those damn clown enemies again, and well, this happened. What?! Literally was not behind me. That was incredibly stupid and absolute bullcrap, as the freaking enemy shouldn't have even spawned from there in the first place. Really frickin' dumb. So yeah, I was just down to Fred and Velma now. I chose Fred because Velma was likely trying to look for her glasses again. Yeah, I may have not watched much Scooby-Doo, but I am at least familiar with the bits at least. Anyway, it turns out that I had the right idea in that third area, just the wrong location, but still, I stand by that it wasn't that obvious in how to progress at this part. When we finally finish up the main part of the level, we now have to deal with this world's boss, Old Iron Face. Or should I say, Donkey Kong? Well, I suppose it wouldn't be a cartoon video game parody without a reference to probably one of the most famous video games of all time. Also, this was easily the best part of the entire game right here. Not that it was amazing, as you literally just grab a life preserver, take it to the top, and throw it around the guy a couple of times, But still, I was probably the most engaged at this part of the playthrough over anything else in the game, just being honest. The last level of the game takes place at the arcade, and unlike the last two secondary levels, this one was more in tune with the other levels of the game. Heck, I'd say this was probably the most like the Boardwalk stage we just played, as you pretty much have to get enough Scooby snacks in each individual area of the level. Once you do, you get access to a Magnaball, and you take this object into the attic, apply them to a bunch of machines in the room, which will eventually set a trap for our phantom virus. What kinda sucks about this level is that you can only carry one Magnaball at a time, so once you collect one, you pretty much have to go to the attic, set it up, and then backtrack to the other rooms again. I wouldn't say it was the most inconvenient thing ever, plus the consumables and health pickups will respawn, which I thought was nice, but still, it wasn't super ideal and felt more of a chore than anything. Once all the devices are set up, the giant magnet in the center of the room will activate, and at that point, you have to wait for the phantom virus to appear. Have him follow you to the magnet, and that will finally catch him and stop his tricks once and for all. Just one more thing left to do in this game. With the phantom virus taken care of, it's time to figure out who is responsible for his mischief. The game gives a brief summary of each suspect and what their potential motives are, and then it gives you the option of picking who you think is the one responsible for all of this. Also, apparently there are clues you can collect. I hit the start button here and I apparently found two things throughout the entire course of the game. Some flasks containing science-y potions and a white lab jacket. I'm not sure if there were any other items I could have collected, but if so, I never found them. Probably because I didn't know I was supposed to look out for them in the first place, and they must have just been laid out randomly in some of the different levels of the game or something. Seriously, the game wasn't really clear on that, and I wish it would have called that detail into my attention a bit more, just so I could have actually more actively participated in this part of the game. Also, if for any reason you don't want to be spoiled on the actual plot for the movie, well, you may want to skip a few minutes ahead here until the game complete text shows. I say that not because the game spoils the movie or anything, but let's just say the series of next events that transpire here are kind of interesting in respect to the movie's plot. I'll just say that much. It's your choice, though. I just wanted to give that option in case there was anyone out there who didn't want to get spoiled if they did want to see this movie at some point. Anyway, spoiler warning in 3, 2, 1, now. So, for my prediction, I landed on Bill, the baseball player. Not only does he have a white lab coat, but he also seems involved in the science field as well, considering he's Eric's research partner. Also, he just seems to have kind of a nasty attitude, perfect for a troublemaker like the Phantom Virus. Perhaps the most defining factor, though, is that the Phantom Virus attacked with baseballs, too, and Bill is a baseball player. Yeah, this seems like a pretty shut-and-closed case, huh? So, I ultimately pointed the finger at him and was greeted with this. Okay, I'm gonna go... I'm super convinced it's you. Oh, okay, apparently I was wrong then. And let me tell you, this was when my chat really spoke up about how BS this was too, because apparently Bill is the one who actually is the perp in the movie too, so this happening surprised everyone. So yeah, it turns out the perpetrator is actually randomized in every playthrough, and each run through the game will give you a certain set of clues to figure out who is the villain. Apparently in this run it was supposed to be Eric and Bill's professor, whom I guess the potion flasks were supposed to be the key item here, since even though Bill and Eric work with Dr. Kaufman, they're computer scientists, while Henry here seems more like an actual general scientist. I have no idea though. There may have also been other clues to tip this off as well that I missed in the playthrough, so I really don't know for sure. But yeah, this was a pretty crappy way to end this game. Don't get me wrong, I do like the idea that there are clues you can collect throughout the game, but just the fact that I didn't even know I had them until literally the very end, or if I could have even looked out for them along the way, just felt really unnecessary and kind of stupid, if I'm being honest. Not to mention, if you get the answer wrong, the game just ends, meaning you'd have to reload your password and do the final level again, which I thought was dumb. I actually made a save state at this point, just because I wanted to see what happens when you achieve both endings, and I really didn't want to replay anything from this game either, so I thought it was more than fair to do so, just in the interest of saving time. Really though, there is not much of a difference between the endings. One just has more positive text than the other, and they both ultimately take you to the same place, the main menu, so no matter what way you slice it, it just didn't seem to matter here. Heck, even speedrunners for this game don't really care about the result either. They just mash through the text, and whatever result they get is inconsequential, since it would all be about the game and runtime anyway. But yeah, with all of that done, I started playing the credits, which means game completes. Well guys, that game was terrible, and yeah, I get it. I'm not really a huge Scooby-Doo fan to begin with, but still, I just don't really see how this could be fun for anyone regardless. The game plays awkwardly, it's incredibly short with not a lot of engaging content, super simplistic with levels just feeling really similar and repetitive, the game not really looking that great, nor is the sound or music really that pleasing either. Heck, even the arrangement of the classic Scooby-Doo theme song sounds kinda grating to me. And even the things that could make this interesting, like the whole mystery aspect, just kinda fall flat. Not only in terms of its impact, but just in the general collection of the clues in the first place. It was just a very underwhelming game for me, and honestly, probably the worst game I've played in a while for this challenge. And I honestly don't even feel like this is a case of console urine either. I truly don't believe the console version of this could really be that much better than this version, and even if it is, then what? Maybe it gets 0.5 higher on the review scale, maybe? Either way, that's not really my concern anyway, as this is a GBA challenge. Let's just get this game out of the way for now and pray that the next Scooby-Doo game is better, because we do have a few more in our future. Getting to the game ratings, in terms of overall quality and enjoyability, I'm giving both of these factors a 1 out of 5. Like I said, worst game I've played for this challenge in a while. Doesn't quite beat out Pet Resort Borefest for absolute worst, but hey, Blades of Thunder is somehow looking better and better the further we get into this, so that's something, I guess. As far as difficulty, I landed on a 1.5 out of 5. It wasn't completely free due to the auto-scrolling stages and the awkward control, but for the most part, it's pretty free. Beating each stage also allows you to use a password save as well, so even if you lose lives, you can always get them back by reloading. Also, I forgot to mention this, but there was a difficulty slider for this game as well. This was a case where I did actually increase it over the default difficulty though, since I only had to play on easy mode and I felt like I could have handled normal mode, so I made that slight adjustment. I honestly feel like it probably wouldn't have done that much though. But yeah, that was my adventure of beating Scooby-Doo in the Cyber Chase. So, let's take a look at the next game we'll be playing and beating for this challenge. And hopefully it's better than this one. Okay guys, thank you for watching this summary, I really appreciate it. Don't forget to leave a comment and or like on the video, as those will really help me in these videos out. And stay tuned for future summaries of this series. If you also want to watch full playthroughs of these games for this challenge, check out the video description for a full playlist of everything that's been uploaded and exported so far. And if you're curious about what I'm playing right now for the challenge, be sure to stop by my Twitch channel to see what my current progress is. Just be warned, I'll be a lot further ahead of where we are for these summaries, so keep that in mind. This has been SlimKirby in the GBA series, and I'll talk to you fine people next time. Later, folks.